Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam and you're watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today we're going to be talking about all the best stuff Netflix is adding in February 2022. So in this video, we're going to be talking about a whopping 30 movies getting added to Netflix this month, some old, some brand spanking new, 10 series, again, some old and some brand new. As usual, we will start this list off with all the familiar favorites they're adding on the first, and then we'll work our way through the rest of the month in chronological order, talking about all the new stuff Netflix is going to be adding. At the end of the video, I'll be showing you a full list of everything leaving during the month of February, so you can be sure to catch those titles before they're gone. But before all that, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, Keeps. Now, longtime subscribers have certainly noticed I'm going gray in somewhat of a hurry. I'm 37, so it's a little premature, but I have embraced it. I am not afraid to go gray early. However, I am a little afraid of having thin gray hair, which is why I have been using Keeps for well over a year now, long before they became a sponsor of this channel. Now, I'm required to say that results may vary, but I got results after about 3 or 4 months. I did notice my hair was thicker and fuller, and about another 3 or 4 months after that, I started getting other people to notice, and now I get more compliments on how thick and full my hair looks than I ever did. But Keeps is an online subscription service with doctor-recommended hair loss treatments. They've got 24/7 expert support and proven results. And Keeps actually makes it super easy to find the right prescription plan for you, because not all hair loss is the same. Not only am I on the right plan, but I also combine it with their shampoo and conditioner. I've never cared what kind of shampoo I use. I've been using theirs again for over a year. I love it. I notice when I go out of town and don't have it, my hair does not look as thick and full as it does when I'm using this stuff every day. It's fantastic. Again, highly recommend upgrading and getting the shampoo and conditioner. So if you're like me and you want to get ahead of it before it's too late, go to keeps.com/flickconnection. I've put a link down there in the description, but that's KEEPS.com/flickconnection, and you're going to get 50% off your first Keeps order. There's also a link in the video description and the top pinned comment, which also has the full list of all the movies and shows we're talking about in this video. But speaking of that, let's move on with the rest of the video. So let's get started with all those familiar favorites they're going to be adding on February 1st, beginning with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Now, I am as excited for the new Batman movie as the next person. It does look like it's going to be quite good. However, I seriously doubt they're going to be able to top The Dark Knight. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and not just because of Heath Ledger's performance. That's a major factor, but Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are both particularly well written for this genre, because they have a lot more in common with really good crime movies than they do with superhero movies. Another action flick that just never got the respect I think it deserved is The Book of Eli. This is essentially a post-apocalyptic western starring Denzel Washington. There are some silly elements to this movie, but there's a lot of badass elements to this movie, and not just Denzel Washington's fighting style. You also get a really great role from Gary Oldman in this, so it's well worth watching, especially if it's been a while since you've seen it. Go back and rewatch it as a western, and you may enjoy it even more than you did the first time. They're also adding The Bourne Ultimatum, which I think is easily the best of the entire series in terms of a movie. I don't care which one was closest to the book or any of that. This one was directed really, really well. It almost stands alone on its own. Even though you do need to know a few things about some of the other movies, this one just is the tightest, the action's the best, and overall it just works the best out of that entire series, which was a good series. They're also adding Anaconda, which is a cheesy monster movie, but if you watch it as a cheesy monster movie, it's actually a pretty exceptional one. If that's not your jam, you want something a little bit scarier, they're also going to be adding The Exorcist. Not only is it one of the scariest movies of all time, I happen to think it is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. William Friedkin, the director of The French Connection, did this movie, and it is just, again, very tight, very well put together. It makes for an exceptional horror movie. If you've never watched it as such, as a really great film, go back and revisit it this month. There's tons of great stuff in there that you just don't get in your typical sort of popcorn horror movies. If that's not enough Satan for you, they're also going to be adding The Devil's Advocate, which is a really overblown Al Pacino performance, but still a really fun one to watch. And then one of my more favorite understated Al Pacino performances is in Donnie Brasco, which also stars Johnny Depp. This is the true story of an undercover FBI agent that got in maybe a little bit too deep. It makes for a fantastic gangster movie. There's not much style to this one. It's pretty straightforward, but you get great performances from both of those guys and some other just longtime favorites like Michael Madsen. I consider Warrior to be another underrated movie. Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy play brothers who are MMA fighters, and while this is based on a true story, my understanding is that the story isn't really quite true to life. There's some things that are off, but you get great performances from both of those guys, and it's just a good, solid, I think well-rounded sports movie. If you like big budget action movies with tons of special effects, they're adding a handful of those, including Watchmen, which obviously has mixed reviews, but I think this is one of the most beautiful movies that Zack Snyder ever put together. Story-wise, it lumbers along and it's pretty clumsy, and even though you kind of have to slug through it, there's a lot of fantastic and stunning scenes that make it worth the effort. Similarly, they're going to be adding 2 Transformers movies, Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, which I believe are the second and third installments in that franchise. They are PG-13, but they're family-friendly for families with older kids, so if your kids have not seen these yet, now would be a great time to check them out for a family movie night. However, if you're like me and you've got younger kids, they're also adding quite a few things for the family, including Raising Dion Season 2. This is a Netflix original series about a little boy with superpowers. Season 1 obviously is already on Netflix. They're also going to be adding Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2. I don't care how many times you watch these, they're always fun to watch, especially with young kids. And then sort of a hidden gem that's actually directed by Zack Snyder is Legend of the Guardians. Now this is an animated fantasy movie about these tribes of owls. This one can be a little bit too dark for very young kids, but it is stunning visually. Even if you don't have kids, I highly recommend checking this movie out. It looks incredible, and as an animated movie, it has largely gone unnoticed. And then finally on the 1st, they're adding a handful of comedies, including Caddyshack. They're also going to be adding Caddyshack 2, but that's just one that I never quite got.
All right.
You can also expect to see The Addams Family, The Hangover, and The Other Guys all getting added on the 1st. On the 2nd, they add The Tinder Swindler, which is a Netflix documentary about a guy on Tinder that may or may not have actually existed. On the 3rd, they're adding Kid Cosmic Season 3. I have a 5-year-old, actually he turned 6 between the time I filmed this and released it. He loves this show and I love watching it with him. It's got this really cool vintage style to it, sci-fi elements. It is really a lot of fun to watch for a kids show. They're also going to be adding Murderville, which is a new Netflix original comedy series starring Will Arnett. I haven't actually seen him star in anything in quite a while. He's been doing a lot of voice acting. I always loved him on Arrested Development, which is also included with Netflix, always has been. But being a longtime fan of his and murder mystery stuff, I'm gonna have to check this out. Disenchantment Part 4 comes to Netflix as well. I know there's mixed reviews on this. Some Simpsons fans never really got into the show, while others are just die-hard fans for it. So if you've been patiently awaiting what amounts to Season 4, you don't have to wait much longer. They're also going to be adding Catching Killers Season 2. It's a little bit of a generic murder mystery series because each episode's about someone different, but it is quite good. It's just not as good as some of their more focused true crime series. February 11th is kind of a big day over at Netflix. They got quite a few things coming out I'm interested in. The first is a new series called Inventing Anna, which is about a con woman who's actually played by Julia Garner, who most of you will recognize from Ozark. So as that series is winding down, she's in this. She is fantastic. Hopefully the show is as good as she is. Tall Girl 2 is a Netflix original sequel to Tall Girl, which is a movie I never bothered to watch, but it's about a high school girl who is 6'1" and is trying to deal with being tall. Obviously, I'm not the target demographic, but another reason I didn't watch this is Mrs. Van Dam is 6'2", so 6'1" seems like small potatoes to me. Big Bug is a Netflix original that is French language, but it's actually from famed director Jean-Pierre Jeunet, which I'm certain I butchered with a thick American accent, but he's famous for movies like Amélie, easily one of the best 100 movies of all time. I've loved everything this guy has made, and while Big Bug would not have really caught my interest otherwise, I know that he's a fantastic director that creates a lot of magic, so I'll definitely be checking this one out, and you can be guaranteed if it's good, you will hear about it on future videos. We're still on the 11th. They're going to be adding Love is Blind Season 2. Now, this is not my type of show, but I can tell you I watched Season 1 and enjoyed the heck out of it. I don't know that they're quite going to get me back for Season 2, but if you cannot get enough Love is Blind, I'll say they're also releasing a Japanese version this month as well. The 15th adds Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, one that bounces around on every single streaming service, but if you've not watched this one with your kids, it's one of my favorites in this genre. Bill Hader voices the main character. He's one of my favorite comedy actors, and you just get giant food falling from the sky. It's well written. It's just really, it's one of the best non-Pixar ones I've seen in the last 10 plus years. The 16th brings my least favorite movie from one of my favorite directors, Michael Mann, Black Hat. Now, this is actually the last movie that he directed, and it is a little bit of a mess. I think the script is kind of a mess, but you do get Chris Hemsworth being a total badass in this. It's got its strong points, but story-wise, it loses me and just really doesn't stand up to the pedigree that Michael Mann has in his filmography. But if you've never watched it, it does make for a pretty decent espionage flick. They're also going to be adding Gene Yus, a Kanye trilogy. This is going to be a must-watch for Kanye West fans. This is a docu-series that I believe is 3 parts, and it spans about 20 years of his career. It appears to feature a lot of inside footage, which should be plenty interesting for anybody who wants to get a closer look inside the music industry. The 17th adds Fistful of Vengeance, which is a martial arts action movie starring Iko Uwais. I'm a big fan of him, however the movies he is in can be hit and miss. Hopefully this is a good one though. On the 18th, they're going to be adding Space Force Season 2. While this is one of my least favorite performances from Steve Carell, I just find him to be a little dry and not very funny in this show. The rest of the cast is so funny in the show, including John Malkovich. I find everyone's characters to be really stand out. It's just kind of unusual that Steve Carell doesn't stand out as much as a lot of the other actors. That said, still a really funny show. If you haven't watched it yet, you can catch up on Season 1 before Season 2 drops. Also on the 18th, they're going to be adding the Cuphead show. Now, my wife and I have played the Cuphead game. It's a very difficult sort of arcade-style game, and it's a lot of fun, but the animation style in that game is incredible looking. It looks like old vintage cartoons. The series says it's aimed for families, yet the devil plays a role in it, so my guess is it's going to be Y7, but I'll definitely be checking it out, probably though not with my youngest daughter. They're also going to be adding Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is a Netflix original reboot. Yes, another reboot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As a big fan of the original, and I will say, I do think the 2003 reboot is a highly underrated movie, so there is potential here. Not only because of that, but Daniel Garcia directed this. Now, he only has done one other movie. It's called Tejano, and I have reviewed it here on the channel. I really liked that movie. He did a lot with very, very little money. So I'm very interested to see what he's able to do with this Netflix original film, even though my understanding is he came in after the original directors were fired, which is never a good sign before a movie comes out, but I am holding out hope for this one. I think Garcia has the potential to do some really interesting stuff here. Now, if it doesn't work out, on the 21st, they're going to be adding Halloween, the 2007 Rob Zombie reboot. I think that's it for reboots on this video. I know this one has mixed reviews. I always love what Rob Zombie is able to bring to screen. In fact, I'll even go out on a limb and say his Halloween 2, which is not getting out of Netflix, I just think it is highly underrated and it's superior even to this one. And then on the 25th, they're adding Tyler Perry's A Medea Homecoming as a Netflix original. Now, I recall Tyler Perry having this to say years ago.
As long as people want to see it, she'll show up, you know, but the minute they stop coming, that broad is dead.
And considering the fact people aren't paying for tickets to see this Medea movie, I don't know. Maybe it'll be the last one. I mean, eventually, there's got to be a last one, right? And then before I tell you about everything that's leaving, also on the 25th, they're going to be adding Vikings Valhalla. Now, this is a Netflix original series, but it is a sequel to the History Channel series Vikings, which was a hit show, really well done. The sequel series doesn't appear to have the same level of production value. It could just be the clips they're showing from the trailers. This takes place long after the events of Vikings. Fans of the show, I think this is going to be a must-watch for you. Hopefully, it's as good as the original series. But with that, here is everything leaving during the month of February. If you are new to the channel, please note the date I am showing you is the date that it leaves, which means you will not be able to watch it on that day. Make sure you watch it prior to the date listed, and just pause the screen and maybe take a screen grab with your phone if you need a little more time. Don't forget, titles of all the shows and movies coming to Netflix this month can be found in the top pinned comment down below, along with the link to get 50% off your first month of Keeps. Thanks again to Keeps for sponsoring this video, and thanks to the Patreon supporters for supporting yet another video. But I will keep making these videos as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this Netflix episode, and you will see me on the next one.